The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. And by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff, in stock at coolstuffinc.com. The Dice Tower, episode 586.
The best of 2018!
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. On today's show, we've got the whole gang together for our end-of-year party. Tom, Mandy, Suzanne, and I will discuss the year 2018, including our favorite co-op game, biggest surprise, and our top 10 games of the year. I'm Eric Summerer, and here's your host, the Peter Parker to our Miles Morales, Gwen Stacy, and Penny Parker, Tom Vassell.
Eric, that is amazing.
Yep.
Thank you.
I hope it is. I haven't seen it yet. I have plans to see this week. I'm going to go take the kids to see the movie. So I just had to, see a quick synopsis to get the names right.
So, obviously, Eric, you're Miles, but who's Gwen and who's Penny?
I don't know. You have to fight over that.
Oh. I called dibs on Penny. Oh, man, that's who I was going for. All right.
Really? Let me say this. That was probably my... I really like Avengers Infinity War, but other than that, that's my favorite movie of the year. Oh my goodness, I loved it. My kids loved it.
I've seen so much praise over this film, and people just really, really like it. And I was planning to see it, but, after everyone I know on all of my social media feeds saying they loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I am rushing now to see it as soon as I can.
Yeah, well, it really worked on a lot of levels because, my wife is not a comic book fan at all. She she knows who Spider-Man is, and she liked it. I'm sitting there going, oh, I know about the multiverse, and I know who all these people are, and this better work, blah, 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 blah. And I came out going, yeah, they got it right. It was very well done. But this is not the best movies of the year episode, because I would actually only be able to talk for 10 minutes. I have not seen many movies. It's Best of Board Games. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
I'm Andy Hutchinson.
And I'm Eric Summerer. We're all here.
Yeah, okay. So we've done our Best of the Year shows. We used to split them in two parts because they were so long.
We also had a whole bunch of crazy categories and every contributor we could possibly squeeze into it.
If you notice, I cut the categories down because, I don't know, I just felt like too many categories.
All right.
Still a lot of fun.
Well, let's talk about the year as a whole first, 2018. I'm just getting, it just really bugging me when people come up and they're like, wasn't a very good year, was it? And it's almost like, I feel like people want it to be a bad year. Because that way then they're justified in not playing all the games that come out or what have you. And that's fine. It's kind of mind-boggling to me. I did the top 100 games of the year. There was at least 200 good games that came out this year, in my opinion. And someone was like, mediocrity, most of that stuff is bad. And if you think most games that come out are mediocre and bad, you're in the wrong hobby. You don't have to get them all. You don't have to play them all. But don't, jump on our joy. Back off. I'm very feisty.
I see that.
It's going to be a good podcast.
Yes.
I'm not feisty with you guys yet.
Wow.
So, what did you all think of the year as a whole?
It still feels like it's a fire hose of games. The constant new releases, it's impossible to play them all. This has not changed over the past year. It's been like this for some time now. We used to do, you mentioned categories that we've eliminated from this end of year show. We used to do a wish we had played segment where we listed, a few games that we wish we had gotten to.
It'd be too long now.
I know. I've got 8 games on my short list of things that I really wish I had gotten to. Keyforge, Everdell, The Empires of the Void, sequel, Chronicles of Crime I never got to. But it's a bunch of stuff I never got to. But I'm noticing that in order to stand out from this deluge, I'm noticing a lot more unique and quirky styles of games, mechanics of games. We saw a game that you play blindfolded, Nyctophobia, that came out this year. Strange and different themes like Holding On, a very unique theme. We saw the adventure book system premiere with Stuffed Fables. We're even seeing some unique art that really stands out from the shelf, which we're going to talk about in our art segment. It almost feels like if you just do a standard Euro-style game, it's going to get lost in the shuffle, no matter how good it actually is. Mm-hmm. You need to have something sort of unique and different to stand out and get some buzz.
Yeah, except I'm not convinced on what you said there that the quirky innovation is the best way to stand out, because the games that have stood out the most aren't necessarily quirky. You know, when I go somewhere and see people playing Underwater Cities and the new Azul and stuff, that's not necessarily quirky. There's a lot of cool, quirky, innovative games. I'm just not sure that they're, like, selling more than the other ones.
But they get talked about.
Maybe. By us.
Well, for me, obviously 2018 was an amazing year for roll and write style games. I talk about them extensively. I love them. In fact, Mandy and I had our live Q&A just the other night, and somebody asked, are we oversaturated? Have we hit critical mass on roll and write games? And of course, I'm biased, but my answer is absolutely not. In fact, roll and write games are just really starting to expand into different themes and different ways they combine their mechanisms, adding complexity and things like that. So I think 2018 was certainly a huge year for that genre of games, and I'm excited about it, and I'm excited for 2019 in that area as well.
Is it okay if I say I'm a little tired of them?
Sure, you can be. I mean, there's a lot of them, and I think you do. Some are better than others, and I have found ones that I probably won't play again anytime soon, and I've found new ones that I just absolutely adore. So, but I lean towards them. I definitely have a bias. So, but the other thing that really kind of took me by surprise in 2018, it was really the year I noticed mass market games, and I enjoyed them. I think Villainous was a great example where not only was it a beautiful production, but the gameplay was incredibly thematic and just end to end. It was a phenomenal production that is pretty much on the shelves of Target and Walmart. It's a completely mass product. And in fact, it's interesting because it's not even shrink wrapped. The way that they packaged it is a very mass market style packaging. And I think that there are a number of games that fit into that general family. I think Monster Crunch was a really interesting little game. Was it complex or heavy? No, absolutely not. But was it engaging and fun? And did my family enjoy it? 100%. So I'm super duper excited about, this entity, Prospero Hall, that's designing and inventing a lot of games, and other mass market publishers that are clearly seeing what's happening in hobby and trying to emulate it and level up their gameplay systems. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Are you sure that those are like, I don't even know what the line is on a mass market game. I mean, I guess Villainous is, but it doesn't feel like one. It feels like some middle ground between mass market and, I don't know.
But it wasn't even really marketed to hobby game stores. It went direct to big box store shelves.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I wouldn't know anything about
like Monster
that.
Crunch.
We don't have that in Canada.
Yeah. I think the line is blurring a lot more than it used to. The shelves of terrible games are starting to shrink, and we're getting much more better games in these mass market outlets. It's harder to track down the terrible movie tie-in games.
Well, I'm kind of reiterating what Eric talked about earlier. So many games. There were so many games. I actually struggled a little bit to fill out this list that we're going to talk about today because I just had so many that I didn't get to that are still there that I would like to get to. So kind of very similar to what Eric was talking about. So hopefully I can get to them all, but we'll see. I'm sure 2019 will be much of the same. And also there was lots of crossover, I found, crossover mechanics in games. I mean, that's something that kind of trailed out of 2017 when we talked about Clank, and, they're kind of continuing that with the deck building, the dungeon crawl, and things like that. So I think we'll see more of that to kind of make games a little more interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. The year of, obviously, we are certainly deluged with a ton of games, and we're starting to see some of the fallback from that. I believe I just saw Greater Than Games bought Nevermore Games, Stronghold and Indie Games merged. I think we're going to see a lot more of that happening as companies just, or companies grabbing a designer like Simon getting Eric Lang, or things like that, where they're going to be consolidating because it's hard to get your games out there. That Kickstarter that made you $4 million, garbage. Go to the next one. People don't have time to talk about it, and that still worries me because, 2018 is coming to a close. I think it's okay to talk about these games in 2019. Because and I know in 2019 we're going to be talking about new games, and I already have my favorite game of 2019 lined up. But
well, la-di-da.
No, that's what I mean. But we can all get caught up in that, especially our podcast, and I don't mean to do that. But on a personal level, I enjoyed the year. We went to a lot of cool conventions. We were able to do a lot of cool things. We didn't make any major changes to the podcast this year, so there's that.
And the people thank you.
There's no big change to the podcast coming around the corner, folks. So, well, let's jump now to some of these categories since we have so very many of them, starting with our biggest surprise. Okay, so for me, let's start with the biggest surprise here. And so I'm surprised all the time, but I think that's because I go into games maybe with lower expectations. But for me,
this is going to be terrible. All these are terrible.
Well, no, not just so much that. It's just that I'm having a hard time, necessarily trying to figure out what is a game going to be, what game's going to be hot. So I just assume none of them. And then when I play them, I'm like, oh, yay, this was really good. But my biggest surprise wasn't that the game was good. It was just that the game existed, and that's Keyforge. Because this blew my mind when they mentioned it at Gen Con.
Yep.
And so I went to the Fantasy Flight thing. We're sitting there, and they're like, blah, 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 Star Wars, more, blah, 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 expansion. Oh, look, we're making money. Okay, great. And then they mentioned Keyforge, and my first reaction was just, ho-hum, who cares? It's another fantasy card game. And then they started explaining this unique that every single deck on Earth was different. And that just blew my mind. I just was trying to wrap my head around it, and that's all I thought about. And then we went out to dinner, and that's all I was thinking about. And then at night, I'm sleeping, and I'm still thinking about it. How are they doing this? Am I around when the first time someone thought of a collectible card game? Because I remember what I thought when that first happened. I was like, that's different. You buy cards, and there's some cards are better than others, and so this idea, Keyforge, and then I was very pleased to see that the game was good. I enjoyed Keyforge a lot. But the whole idea, now, the unique thing doesn't always work. Discover, Lands Unknown, proves that point. But it's pretty cool. And I know people are, again, this is another game that people seem to be rooting to fail. Keyforge, cash grab. As a heads up, folks, almost every game sold is a cash grab.
Is a cash grab.
Because companies want you to give them cash and buy their game. Very few people are making games solely for the love of making games. And they'll tell you they are, but they don't yell at you when you pay them for the games. Anyway, my biggest surprise of 2018, Keyforge.
My big surprise is a little less world-changing, but it's Cryptid, which is the nice little Osprey Games deduction game. I had no idea this thing existed until it arrived, a review copy arrived. And while it looked interesting just reading the rules, I didn't really see it in motion until getting it to the table. And it's such a solid distilled deduction game. I know Tom complains about the art, but it works so well mechanically. It's been a blast with all the groups I've played it with, and I was delighted that it worked so well. Cryptid.
I'm not complaining about the art. There is no art.
Well, there's art on the front.
Yeah.
I like that.
I love Cryptid, but I totally get you because you have an artist like Panchai Moria.
Right.
And the art's very subtle, but it has to be for gameplay, so.
Yeah, for that one, yeah, I agree.
Alrighty, well, kind of keeping in line with my comments about the year and where mass market was going, the surprise for me this year is a little game called Spirits of the Wild. And this was published by Mattel. And it's about the size of one of these 2-player games out of Cosmos or Mayfair games. And it's just a little 2-player game. And it has you drawing stones out of a bag, and you're just trying to almost set collect these stones. And the core mechanism is action selection. You have a set of cards that give you different actions, like drawing out stones or moving a coyote to block your opponents and things like that. It's a very simple game, but it's very good. It's a very good light 2-player game. The production is gorgeous. It has a little plastic bowl. It has these little plastic stones. Everything is really well done. I mean, the card quality is just okay, and the box quality is just okay, but it's also like $15. It's inexpensive. It's a beautiful production, and it is a solid, lightweight 2-player game published by Mattel. And I was totally surprised by that and totally delighted that it exists. So that's Spirits of the Wild.
Biggest surprise for me was Gizmos. I remember we went to Simon when they were having their little convention, and I saw it and I said, oh, it's just another potion explosion? Great, yay. And which I like potion explosion, but I'm like, we have one already. But just because I saw the marbles, and then when I said, okay, we'll give it a try, and I was like, ooh, this is fun. Kind of get to build your engine, getting cards that trigger other cards. Ooh, and I get some nice marbles to boot, and they do fun things for me. So I really like this game, and anybody that I show it to also really likes it. Now, I'm not particularly good at it, but that doesn't mean I don't want to play it. So for me, I was surprised in the fact that I thought it was going to be something really gimmicky or something that already existed, and it really surprised me about how well it played and how accessible it is for lots of people. So that's Gizmos.
Cool. So let's move on to the visual aspect of the games of 2018, best art. And I get to go first here with a game that the art is sort of the primary goal, the overarching goal of the game, and that's holding on. You're trying to maintain Billy Kerr's health. It's a co-op game. You're trying to keep him healthy, but you're also trying to figure out what his life is, and that is in this tableau of cards that begin as foggy memories. And then you're trying to replace those with clear memories. And I really like the way they all connect to each other to make this tapestry, and how a position of what the foggy memories, you'd only see Billy. And he's sort of in a position. But then when you see the entire art of the card, he may be in a different situation than what you originally think is going on in that memory. And the way that all works together, I found quite fascinating. I also really liked the Boldest, which has a very distinctive art style. And I think, Suzanne and Mandy, you talked about this last week. It really stands out from other games and really makes you take notice. So that's sort of my second place. But Holding On's my pick for best art this year.
Ooh, we get a second place? Right on.
Oh, yes.
Thanks for opening that door, Eric.
Yeah, and
You're welcome, sir.
So for me, I just got to say, it's one of the things that delights me about where the industry is going overall is that the art in games is getting better and better and better across the board. It's really... it enhances games so much. So I'm excited about this category, and it was hard to pick. So for me, I ultimately went with High Society, the reprint of a classic Knizia game, High Society from Osprey Games. It's got this gorgeous, gorgeous kind of, each character is just illustrated beautifully, and it somehow feels classic and modern. The colors are gorgeous. The line work is gorgeous. And it is stunning to look at the table, which personally is lovely because High Society has always been a great game. But I would say that some of the previous editions didn't have my favorite kind of art overall. So it's just awesome that we have this great classic game with gorgeous art. So High Society was my number one pick. But since Eric opened the door to second place,
I'm sorry.
I want wanted to
Samara.
mention a game called Ganymede. Ganymede's coming from Lucky Duck Games and Sorry We Are French, and it's a lovely little game, but I really admire the art style. They use this polygon style art that's computer generated, and it's very sci-fi in a way, and which matches the theme beautifully. And I think the colors and the angles are so rich, and what the artist did, this Oliver Mutu, it's a beautiful, beautiful game. And I like that it's got a different art style in it. It's uncommon, and I think that makes it very compelling too. So that's I snuck one in. Sorry.
I guess this kind of like shows different tastes then, because when you mentioned Ganymede, I was like, did that have artwork? So I went and looked at it now, and I was like, oh yeah, it just was a bunch of blob stuff to me. I know, but I agree with you on your other choices.
Okay. Phew.
So I decided for best art to go with Lady and the Tiger. This game, I loved it because it has a multitude of games, and each of the games has different arts on the cards. It reminded me, I hope I can say this, Disney-esque. So the art is done by Tanya Walker, I believe, and the colors are really vibrant. Lots of I love the scenarios presented in the game. It's I remember it, and it's not a large game, but it's definitely stood out to me. The colors are great, and I just love the story it tells within the game. So that was my first pick, and my sneaky second is The Boldest, same as what Eric said.
Yeah, well, I want to say that's my second too, since we're all throwing that out there. My favorite is a small game called Crossroads of Heroes. I believe this was a self-published game and designed by the artist, Pat Piper. The game itself is okay. I feel bad about that. But the artwork is phenomenally cool. It's this, has kind of a flair of an Asian flair, but it looks really cool, almost like an Asian version of what's the Tintin.
Cool.
Tintin. I don't know how else it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. It's not quite like that, but that's the kind of feel it gives me, and it just looks great. Beautiful full versions of cards, and I like that you can be someone who's a hero, or you can like devolve into being Wicket, and they have like the slight difference in the art for that. It's just really neat. So that's my favorite art. Crossroads of Heroes.
Cool.
Well, let's move on to the world of playing together instead of playing against each other, and talk kind of our favorite cooperative games of the year, which is funny in a way for me to go first here, because I'm not typically a fan of cooperative games.
They're your favorite.
They are not, Eric. You are telling lies. You're telling tales here. Speaking of tales, though, I did get to play some cooperative games that I enjoyed this year, and one cooperative game that I absolutely loved, and that is Escape Tales: The Awakening. And I believe Escape Tales is kind of a system or series similar to Deckscape or even Unlock.
Oh.
And then The Awakening.
Yes, they told me that there's more coming.
Which is thrilling to me, because Escape Tales is kind of this escape room style game. It's very puzzle heavy, and this one had a narrative that runs all the way through it. And Mandy and I talked about it in a podcast a little bit ago, but man, this experience stuck with me. I totally love the system. I was so glad I was playing it with other people, because those puzzles got difficult and didn't click with the way my brain works, and so I never would have gotten them on my own. So working as a team definitely was great here.
Oh.
And they get creepy.
Oh yeah, thematically, it gets dark. But
I was playing it by myself, and I was like, Lara, come play this with me.
Turn all the lights on.
They told me that the next one will not be quite as dark.
That's actually good for me, because it definitely got dark. It didn't bother me, but I'm a wimp. So, but yeah, Escape Tales.
Yeah, but can
so
you
good.
understand? As a parent, part of that game is tough. I think
100% agree.
It's like there's like real world stuff at points, and I'm like, oof, I can imagine this, and so but that shows how strong the theme was.
Yeah, it draws. I mean, it sucks you in. You start to connect with the storyline on a personal level, which just makes it more stressful and ups the ante for you. And that's cool.
My copy still has the shrink on it because as long as I keep the shrink on it can't get me.
That's absolutely how this works. Smart move.
So going from fake tales to real tales, I guess. The best cooperative game for me was Detective, a modern crime board game. I recently did a playthrough of this, so I don't want to give away too much, but this game, I love that you get to play detective, kind of like CSI. And the theme in this, I don't want to give too much away, but I have a bit of an obsession with this theme and watch a lot of the History Channel, so this was right up my alley. It was engaging for me. It is definitely a bit heavier, longer for a lot of people, but I loved the way it played out. I love the fact that you get to go in a system and you get to look up fingerprints and blood samples, and it literally was like being in the crime scene and investigating. So for me, Detective Modern Crime board game was awesome.
Yeah, now that I put this list together and then put all my answers in, came back, and I don't know why when I was making this up, I didn't think of escape room games as co-op. I know they are. So I didn't put I'm going to have to change my answer here because I had The Reckoners, which is a great
but you
game.
You could put a number 2, Tom. You could put
No, but my favorite is actually Chronicles of Crime.
I was surprised you didn't put that.
Well, I don't know. I just wasn't thinking of it as a co-op.
Right.
But I like Detective, but I like Chronicles better, mostly because Detective is a little too time-consuming, I think is the word. And also, Chronicles of Crime, at the end, they're like, who did it? And Detective, they're like, what was the age of Bob when he was murdered? I'm like, what? Who's Bob? I didn't even meet Bob. And that's my one negative against Detective is occasionally he'll ask you questions and you're like, well, how am I supposed to know that? You only gave me 3 days to look at this case. But they're both very good. I just like Chronicles better.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. This is a great game. My pick is the new Pandemic, Fall of Rome. They're just...
Oh, wow.
There's a whole bunch of small changes that alter the way that Pandemic works. Still feels like Pandemic, but also feels different. The way the army marches around, you're dice rolling, you're having to deliver the hoplites to battle the evil armies. It really feels like a different game, and one that I really, really enjoy. Finally managed to win at the Dice Tower Retreat. I can't wait to get my own copy of this, play it with as many people as I possibly can. It's very solid. Pandemic, Fall of Rome.
All right, so that moves us now into the best expansion. So, oh boy, I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I checked my plays for the year, and apparently the only expansion that I played this year was Imhotep, A New Dynasty. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So it really stood out for you.
It did. Yeah. So I will be happy to say that we enjoyed it. It came with a nice mat. And it had a few other cards that added some interest to the game. I actually hadn't played Imhotep in a while, so when Cosmos Game sent me Imhotep the expansion, I said, oh, okay, this will be interesting. I haven't played it for a while. It was fine. And with my group, we really enjoyed what it added to the game. So it's the only one I played, but it is one that I enjoyed. So that's Imhotep, A New Dynasty.
Interestingly enough, this is one of the expansions this year I haven't got to play yet.
That's too funny.
My favorite expansion by a country mile, and there's been some amazing expansions this year. The Terraforming Mars duo of Colonies and Prelude. And anyway, but it's Scythe, Rise of Fenris. What a fantastic game expansion this was. Now, this is a campaign one, and I know that there's not too many campaign games, but I'm getting campaigned out. Like when I open a box and they're like, hey, you get to play this game 20 times in a row. Oh, do I have to? I just want to play a single game and go to the next game without worrying what's changed in between or playing with the same people. But this was great. Not only was the campaign fun, I did play it with the same people all the way through, and we started playing and didn't stop. We split it between 2 sessions and played 4 games in a row each time a Scythe.
Wow.
Which I almost never do, right?
Yeah.
But it was that great. And then all the elements from this expansion then can be used in regular Scythe, which is just amazing. So easily my favorite. Great components, great cool stuff in it. Scythe, Rise of Fenris.
Well, Mandy, I think I'm in a similar boat. I went looking for which expansions I had played, and while I purchased many, I haven't gotten many to the table. And the one I did get to the table and enjoyed is the Meeple Circus expansion, Wild Animal and Aerial Show, which adds a bunch more little figures, including a little dude with like a tightrope walker with a pole that sticks out, some new animals, some new rules to play with, new tasks to perform, just basically more of what makes Meeple Circus fun. And I think it's a must get if you are a fan of Meeple Circus. Add more stuff. It doesn't change the game that much, but it's always great to have more little figures to play with. The Wild Animal and Aerial Show for Meeple Circus.
I got to pick that up. I love Meeple Circus.
Yes, it's fun.
Well, here's an interesting situation for me. I have a working relationship with Restoration Games, so I really feel uncomfortable talking about their products, especially on our podcast, but I want to say Danger Circuit here.
Then say it.
But I
Go with
won't.
it.
So I won't, because that feels weird. So instead, I'll go with another amazing expansion that I got to play and just love, and I think it really adds so much to the game, and that's Monsters and Minions for Role Player. I love Role Player, and I loved the game and just how it centered around creating the character sheet for your RPG character, and then the game was over. And I was totally fine with that. I had no problems. I know some people are kind of like, oh, I wish I had more, but for me, it was totally fine. Well, then Thunderworks comes out with this Monsters and Minions that lets you take that character and go fight a monster with it. And that's definitely what a lot of people wanted. I didn't really want it, but I'm sure glad they did it, because it is so much fun to be working your character, to make some choices about where you're spending your time and your actions, and trying to discover things about the minions and the monsters that you're going to face, things like that. It adds a lot to the game. I definitely recommend it. It's what an expansion should do, similar to what you're saying about Rise of Fenris. It adds so much to the game. The game stands on its own really well, but Monsters and Minions is rock solid.
I did play this one.
Oh,
I played this one too.
Oh, I know. How did we forget, Eric?
Well, you know what? My problem is that I've never played it without the expansion. So the first time I played,
you never should.
nah.
and so I don't know what the game is like without the Monsters and Minions expansion, and I didn't even consider that it was different.
Well, see, that's
So anyway.
how natural and well done that expansion was. It just fits right on in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I just played Danger Circuit, and we used the Mario Kart
Yeah.
racers from the Monopoly
Gamer.
I'll never play without them. It's Mario Kart the whole way. Instead of the red car, we're all cheering for Mario. It is amazing. They fit perfectly on the board.
Oh, neat.
Fantastic. All right, one of the things that I like to talk about, because we forget sometimes, is reprints. It's great to have reprints of games come out each year, because there's a lot of great games of yesteryear, and I like to see them come back. Sometimes with minor changes, sometimes with major changes. And in fact, well, I'll talk about it on Eric, but my first obvious choice to this, I didn't pick because it was essentially a different game. So I'm picking one that's fairly similar, and that's Camel Up. The Plan B redone version of Camel Up is amazing. They implemented one of the expansions that came out. It's the first board game I opened up, and there was pop-up stuff in it. Oh, it's the second one. Okay, but still, it's really cool. Mythe was the first one. But, man, I forgot how much I like Camel Up, and I'm glad the game is back with great, beautiful production. Plan B is just on fire these days. And my second one was, Eric.
Fireball Island. I got to mention this one. I think Restoration Games is going to be mentioned in this category forever.
Every year.
At this point, because it's what they do. But they took what people remembered as fun from the original 80s game and turned it into a more modern product. It's still light, goofy ridiculousness, but it came together in a really nice package. I think they did what they set out to do, and it's very solid. If you're going to make me choose a more traditional one, it's nice to see Stevenson's Rocket back in print, the new edition of that.
That opinion is not shared by the entire Dice Tower.
I see.
As a heads up. I played it. Huh. Could have left that one in the vault.
Oh, really?
Well,
no, I
just
still
ordered
my group really liked it.
I'm excited.
Oh, it's fantastic. Then you'll enjoy it.
Well, for me, and I think Stevenson Rocket, that was a Grail Games, right?
Yes.
A Grail production. Well, my reprint of the year is also a Grail Games production, and that is Kashgar. Kashgar is just a little card game, but it's got such a wonderful engine building, pool building, deck building kind of thing where you are building these little caravans or columns of cards, and you will action them by the column, and where you discard matters. I love that mechanism where you discard matters. It works for me in games like Blackout. It works for me in games like Mombasa, and I love it in Kashgar too. And the production is totally great. Totally, it feels very traditional, and I'm really glad because Kashgar was out of print for a while and hard to get, and that was a shame. And I'm so glad that Grail brought it back because it is a delightful little card game. So that is my reprint of the year.
Cool.
So Kashgar would have been my pick, but somebody else picked it. So I was going to put, yeah.
There's no rule about that.
Well, that's fine. It will be a close second. So I instead chose Brass Lancashire. So Brass, I had actually sort of played the original one. I didn't get to quite finish a game of it. So when I saw the other one, the new one, I was like, oh, the production on this is amazing. I mean, it's right up my alley. It's an economic strategy game, and you're trying to establish your industries and your network. Like, I mean, that sounds so exciting. Who doesn't want to do that? And the art in this is really nice. I like the way it's done. The gameplay didn't seem overly lengthy to me. I thought it played really smooth, and one that I'm hoping to get the second part, or the second one, to the table as well. But for me, Brass Lancashire was beautiful. Loved it.
It is very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as Tom mentioned earlier, we have gone to a lot of different events around the globe, literally. And I will say, I can see in the show notes, and I'm a little surprised at Tom's pick, I have to admit. But for me...
You are?
I am. But I don't want to...
not at all.
No spoilers. But for me, I love Essen. It just has to be my number one. I had a lot of fun at so many events. 2018 was, without a doubt, the busiest travel year I've ever had in gaming. But Essen still stands out. I think it's just a combination of the people and the games that are available and the carbohydrates that I can buy and eat there. It all comes together in a beautiful, magical experience for me. So Essen was my top big gaming event for 2018.
Well, I think you will all be so surprised at the one that I've chosen. Okay, not really. It's Essen, but come on.
Wait a minute. You just said you couldn't pick the same thing Suzanne did in the very last category.
Are we just throwing the rules out the window?
Except for favorite gaming event. Come on, keep up. So, no, Essen is the way to go here. I love it. I love Essen. I love the ambience. I love the feel of it. And it's funny because people are like, you're not crazy about Gen Con, but you like Essen. I'm like, it's different. It's different feeling for me. Maybe just have a lot of the types of games that I really like. I get to meet people I would never see otherwise. I really enjoy Essen, and I'm still trying to track down a copy of Captains of the Gulf. So just throwing that out there.
Well, the reason I didn't put, I mean, I like Essen a lot, but the reason I didn't put it as my number one is it's such a tiring convention. So I'm not picking any Dice Tower cons because I'm very biased there, obviously. Dice Tower Con and the retreats are amazing. Yep. But of the non-Dice Tower cons, my favorite, I think, now is PAX. Well, what did you think I was going to say, Mandy?
Oh, no, I totally knew you were going to say PAX. Suzanne was surprised.
Yeah,
what did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say your Iceland trip.
Well, okay, the gaming con in Iceland was really good and fun, But 90% of my enjoyment of my Iceland con was Iceland.
Gotcha.
Which was fantastic country, and the people there are amazing. But even though I like Philadelphia a lot, taking Philadelphia out of the picture, PAX has it going on. They, to me, they're better than Gen Con almost to me at this point. And they're definitely better than Origins and stuff. They run the con so well. I've never met a staff as good as them except UK Games Expo, which is another close contender for this. And that staff, having a guy come by and ask us, how our booth is doing, having people wandering around with signs that say, you have questions, ask me. An enforcer team that is just unbelievably good. A con that seems to really care about both the exhibitors and the attendees.
Yeah.
It's not perfect con. I don't think any con is. But I really liked it.
That was fun.
So since Tom made this rule about not mentioning Dice Tower events, I was going to say Dice Tower Con was my favorite.
I didn't say there was a rule. I just put that as my own thing.
I got to follow the rules. I picked Origins more for my personal experience. I'm not really ranking the conventions itself, but we did some live streaming from Origins and had the team there. We had to deal with some crazy adversity while they were hanging our banner while we were trying to do interviews. We had that ridiculous painting contest where we're all wearing kigurumis. We did a Dice Tower Tonight episode from the floor and then lost our internet connection a third of the way through. It just had a good time soldiering on and putting on a show while dealing with all these other things. And it just sort of brings to mind how this is a team and we all work together to do what it is we need to do. And it just, I felt that team spirit at Origins this year. And also, I got sick at Essen, so that one has to go down a couple of notches.
Well, that's interesting because I was sitting there thinking, why did Eric put Essen? I mean, why did he put Origins? And that makes more sense. So you liked Origins because of the actual what we did stuff there?
Right. I'm ranking it for this year. That was my favorite of the non-Dice Tower experiences.
Oh, man. That's interesting. I didn't think about that. Like, which one did we as a group have the best time at?
I answered a different question than you did, I guess.
No, that makes sense. That's good.
I did have fun at that painting contest, Eric. That was a great memory.
I was going to say, if people haven't seen it, they need to go check it out. I think, everybody had a really good time. Tom's is definitely, I would say, the most entertaining miniature of the bunch.
Hey, that one kid picked my miniature as the winner. I believe that proves there's nothing else for me to learn about painting.
You slipped him some candy, didn't you?
I do what it takes. Alrighty, so before we jump to the top 10, folks, which is coming soon, just some brief talking. Hey, we had a great year. Here's a couple other things we wanted to mention about the year. I actually put this one thing in here as just a joke. I put in there themes I'm sick of Vikings, but Sam's not here for that to be like a dig. I will say that it does seem like there's a theme that goes around, and Vikings and space and are starting to be done a little more.
Wait, did you just say Vikings in space?
No, Vikings and space.
Oh.
I would actually play a Vikings in space game.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
No, I'm a little kind of weary of the same themes. That's why when I see something new like smartphone, I get excited just because it's a different theme.
Yeah. I wanted to mention a game that's been a big hit with my kids. That's My Little Scythe. I brought this out and wanted to try it with them for the first time, but then they ran with this one. And they're now asking to play it. My 7-year-old is asking to play it. And his win record against me is 2-0. I have not won against him playing My Little Scythe. So he really likes this one. I think it's a solid game. It's adorable for one thing, and the production is stellar. So I think that's for a family / kids game. It's quite the hit. My Little Scythe.
Well, I wanted to jump in with just a few extras for the year. First of all, best pie discovery of the year, perhaps of the decade for me, is the existence of something called Vly, which we got at Essen. It's like choose your own pie. It had different flavors of pie in one pie. It was amazing.
It was the sampler platter pie.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just what it is. It's Vly, right? It's so good.
That's when we did our pie drafting?
Yes.
Yes.
Where we drafted slices.
Sam took the pie I wanted?
Yep.
I'm so upset about that.
I can tell. Poor thing. I wanted to mention best Japanese game to get North American distribution, Tokyo Highway. I was ecstatic to see that somebody finally managed to make a deal with the team at Itten to publish Tokyo Highway to a broader audience, because it's such a fabulous little game, and it deserves more attention. And Itten does creative, fascinating things with components and gameplay. In fact, they have, I think at the time this airs, they have a Kickstarter for this game called Stonehenge and the Sun that involves a swinging pendulum and Stonehenge. They're just cool. So I'm so glad about that. And
I would actually I would put this particular game under game most likely to be looked at as a work of art.
Yeah, I'm with you. Absolutely. Games can be art. I think it's wonderful. And finally, of course, I have to sneak in my best app of the year, and I'm going to go ahead and put Onitama out there as the best app from Asmodee Digital. It's polished. It's free to download and play the full game. Basically, you can pay extra to get some different figurine shapes and the expansion. But if you just want to play straight Onitama, the app is free. And it's so polished. You can play it solo. It plays great if kind of quote unquote pass and play with you and a friend at the same table. So it's like a great restaurant game, and it has great online play. It's a complete package. So Onitama is my app of the year.
So mine's pretty straightforward. Surprise hit with my game group. That's what I figured I'd talk about. And my game group sees a lot of games. So I put this one on the table, Airship City. I didn't know a lot about it when I got it. Suzanne was actually the one. It was her number one on her top 10 anticipated games at Essen. And I said, sure, I'll give it a go. Really liked the art on the outside, liked the way it looked, and we loved it. So my group was like, we need to get this to the table again. And I was like, really? You like it? They're like, no, it's so good. And so it's one that I definitely need to play again. They enjoyed it. So biggest surprise hit with my group.
It's an excellent year.
It's really good.
Let's find out now what the best of the best is.
It's a Dice Tower Top 10!
The Dice Tower's Top 10 list is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. Cool Stuff Inc. Cool stuff in stock at coolstuffinc.com.
All right, here we go. The top 10 of the year. I'm very pleased to say we have 4 very different lists here.
We do.
With 4 very different tastes. Let's get started.
Number 10.
Let's kick things off with the Quacks of Quedlinburg. You're the bag building game. You're making potions. I love the push your luck aspect. You can sort of tweak the bag with potions that fit your style of play. I haven't played the new North Star Games English edition yet. I think it's virtually identical, but I want to play more of the Quacks of Quedlinburg. My number 10.
We just took this out today and sprayed it. With like a coating, because those tiles are getting super dirty. And I don't know how to fix. They didn't coat them very well, I don't think.
Interesting.
And so they're like the white ones are really dirty. So we sprayed it with that stuff you put on models as a test, and they're a little slightly cloudy, but maybe at least it'll be clean now.
Well, that was a top 20. That was definitely a runner-up for me, Eric. So maybe our tastes aren't that different.
Eric, 1 point.
Yay! Ding ding.
My number 10 is actually a retheming of an older game, but stands totally on its own, and that is Power Ships from Koala Games. Power Ships is a redo of Power Boats. It is a racing game. This is set in space with some variable board setup. It has a really great player range and player count. It's simple, it plays quickly, but it's totally engaging, and it has 3-sided dice, which are super duper cool as well. I love Power Ships. It is a great little game, and that is why it's my number 10.
We haven't played it, so we don't have anything to say.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't get a chance to play.
I haven't played it either.
My number 10 is a game that is probably on my list of most played games over this year, and that is Space Base. Goodbye, Machikoro. Space Base is here. So much fun. To roll dice, get resources on my turn, and then you roll dice, and I get resources on your turn. I also do like the space theme. I like the size of the cards. I like how things pile up, and I like the fact that there's a you win card that I still haven't been able to pull off, but I will someday. My number 10, Space Base.
This is so great. Even my director at work loves this game. So good. My number 10 is Drop It. I remember getting this game and thinking, oh, it looks like a party game. Yay, okay. And it's a game where it has a lot of restrictions. So you have this plastic kind of, I don't know what you would call it, kind of stand-up. It looks like something we played like Plinko. And you're dropping your pieces in it, but you have restrictions on where you can drop it. Like if it's a triangle and you drop it in the triangle area where they're saying no triangles, you don't get points. Touching other colors that are the same, other shapes that are the same can also score you no points. But basically you're trying to get rid of your pieces and try to score the most amount of points. I love this game. A lot of pieces in there. I've done some like Matrix kind of hovering stuff and some crazy moves. We laugh, we have fun. Drop It is great.
Awesome.
My only complaint about Drop It is I can't get the giant size version that they have at conventions.
They have a giant version?
I want the big one. It's so cool.
There's only one in existence. I've already asked. It's in Germany. I'm trying. I keep telling them if they made that giant version, I'd buy one.
Oh, so good. I would too.
Number 9.
Moving on to number 9, my pick is Selenia, the game with the Zeppelin and the sort of the conveyor belt of tiles as the Zeppelin moves along, and you've got this positioning of where you're placing your cards to earn resources and fulfill orders, but do you place farther out and not get bonuses for a while, or do you place behind the Zeppelin and get bonuses as they scroll off? I found it really interesting and a nice lightweight resource gathering game. My number 9, Selenia.
I wanted to like this game. I don't dislike it. I don't know. I just felt kind of like I should like it, but it was like just fine for me. I don't know.
You're having a crisis on the show here.
I am.
You found the expectation to be too much pressure. Like I feel like I should like it, but I didn't like it as much as I thought I did.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, it looks really nice, and I mean, the gameplay is pretty straightforward. I don't know. My stomach didn't get the butterflies, so I don't know.
Okay.
Well, a game that did give my stomach butterflies is Symphony Number 9 from Mo Ideas. Mo Ideas does a great track record of creating fascinating little economic games with great quality components, and Symphony Number 9 falls right in line with there. Of course, it's got that symphony theme, and you have famous composers, and eventually if you buy all their songs, they die, and sometimes that's good for you, and you're trying to put on concerts, but you're trying to put on the right size concerts for the musicians that you have control of. There's cubes, there's bidding, there's all sorts of stuff really going on in this, and it, for me, when you actually play it, the game flow is very, very smooth. It has a nice amount of player interaction, a nice amount of being able to think things through and plan things out. And I just love it. And so that is Symphony Number 9. My number 9.
Minus 1 point for bad timing. All right, my number 9 is The Reckoners. I love the book series. I love cooperative games. I love the production, and it's also a lot of fun. I like the theming of this game where you're a bunch of ordinary folks, and all the superheroes have gone bad, or people became superheroes and went bad. Kind of like that new Superman movie that's coming out where he's bad, but it's not called Superman. It's called...
Brightburn.
Yeah. Anyhow,
Brightburn.
so it's kind of like that. And it's great. It's super fun. I've won once, and that's all that matters. So my number 9, The Reckoners.
My number 9 shows up on somebody else's list, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So, Welcome to. So Welcome to, it's like a roll and write, but you use cards. And you're trying to create your kind of nice neighborhood. You're flipping cards from these piles, and you're basically trying to create different types of things in your neighborhood. So you're trying to create pools, trying to create some houses, you're trying to meet these objective cards before other people do, and basically trying to fill out your board and score as many points as best as possible. So there's a little bit more to it, so I'm sure when the other person wants to talk about it, they can add a little bit more. But Welcome to is my number 9, and I love the theming. Great game.
Number 8.
My number 8 was Tom's number 9. I picked The Reckoners as well. I got a chance to play a friend's copy of this and was really taken with it. The production is really nice with the trays and everything, the big chunky dice, and the theme is cool. Moving around, positioning is important, teamwork is important here. Really solid cooperative game. I liked it so much I ran out and bought a copy that hopefully my son has opened by now because this is posting on Christmas. Anyway, number 8, wow. The Reckoners.
I really, really, really want to try this game. It looks so beautiful, and I've read all the books, and I'm a fan of this story. It looks so cool, and now here you both are putting, oh, darn it, I'm going to have to go get this game. It sounds great. All right, my number 8 is Reworld from Eggertspiel. And I kind of feel like this one flew under the radar a little bit, and I think that's a shame because this is an excellent Euro game where you are procuring, it kind of comes in 2 major game phases, where first you're loading shuttles onto a ship, and then the second part of the game, you are unloading those shuttles onto a planet to terraform the planet. Really, most of the game is in how you get these shuttles and loading them onto your ships, because there's some very clever card play in how when you put the card from your hand on to a shuttle, you can get it, but then you have to match cards on either side, and then the shuttle goes into a specific slot in your ship, and then it's first in, last out as you unload on the planet, and that really matters. You can think everything ahead, you can plan really well, and it's just that puzzle of loading and unloading and planning one phase ahead. I think it's fabulous. I do have some minor complaints about the graphic design on the ships, the shuttles. They look very similar to each other, and I wish they were a little more visually distinguished from each other. But beyond that, Reworld, I think it's a game that deserves a little more attention, and I absolutely love it. So it is my number 8.
This is one I have not played.
Me too. I don't know it.
Well, if it's on the cruise, I would gladly teach it to you because I want people to play this game. I love
Need to spread the love.
My number 8, I get to wear a cowboy hat when I play, and that's Western Legends. And I'm just kidding, because I wear a cowboy hat when playing a lot of games. So, Western Legends is go out in the West and become a criminal, become a sheriff, do what you want, because it's a sandbox game, and I like those kind of games. I like robbing the bank. In fact, I always tell people in one game, I went into the bank, arrested a guy who was a criminal there. I then deposited my stuff into the bank, and then robbed it.
Oh.
And I robbed it because I was teaching them a lesson to always be prepared and not trust everyone.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, it's a super fun game. Really cool theme. There's not a lot of good cowboy games out there, but I like it a lot. Western Legends.
Is this one where you have to have poker hands? Like you need to
Yeah,
play...
you can play a little bit of poker, and you use poker cards to determine combat. But it's not like you need to know poker, really.
Okay, I have it on my... Well, I'm actually very good at poker. It's on my shelf.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I think we should all play poker one day. So my number 8, well, here we go. Chronicles of Crime. This shouldn't be a surprise. I just talked about Detective and Chronicles of Crime. Similar type of concept, you know, solving the crimes, being a detective, but it definitely happens in a shorter time frame. I definitely like the kind of crime scene aspect where you can use your phone and check out the crime scene. That's my favorite part. It's so great. But this was actually introduced to me by Suzanne. She had mentioned it a long time ago on the podcast, and I have to tell you, we pulled it out, and I just wanted to keep playing this game. So Chronicles of Crime is my number 8, and I'm sure you'll see it again on somebody else's list.
You're like the list of spoilers, is all I'm saying.
I know. I love it. Spoilers.
Number 7.
Number 7 was from the early portion of the year. That's Decrypto, the party game where you're trying to guess the words or get your team to guess the words without giving clues that are too obvious for the opposing team to determine as well. This one's worked with lots of groups of people. My family has enjoyed it. I've played it at small conventions and stuff. It's really solid. My kids like it. Decrypto, my number 7.
You have great taste, Eric. Decrypto is excellent. I applaud you.
Very good.
My number 7 is Mandy's number 9, and that is Welcome to, a card-driven roll and write game that Mandy spoke eloquently about already. I will just add that one lovely thing about Welcome to is that it plays basically infinite number of players. As long as you have sheets, everybody can play. And I've taken advantage of that multiple times, and I think that's wonderful. I'm very excited that Deepwater Games has also created new sheets. They recently ran a Kickstarter to come up with some holiday-themed sheets. I was all in on that. I can't wait to play those. So I love that they're expanding a game that works, just adding different little tweaks to it that I think will be super-duper fun. It is an awesome little roll and write. So welcome to, of course, had to make my top 10 for the year. My number
There's
7.
a mat. There's also a mat.
Fancy hat.
Well, that answers. I was going to ask you earlier what your favorite roll and write was. So, all right. My number 7 is Lords of Hellas. I'm glad I'm here because you guys aren't talking about these awesome games. Miniatures do exist. Lords of Hellas is a game that's set in Greek mythology, if it was the future. It's like Greek mythology, but everything's a robot or a cyborg or something like that.
Yeah.
Like the big Hades dog, who's like a giant robot. But anyway, it's really fun. It's kind of like a dude on a map type game, but you are trying to control temples or build giant statues or just go out and send your heroes out to fight mega monsters. This company is Awakened Realms. It's just on the ball. I really feel like 2008 is the year that they passed CMON for like being lords of Kickstarter.
2008?
2018 would make a lot more sense. Because between Lords of Hellas and Nemesis and now the Tainted Grail, I mean, their Kickstarters are just blowing up. And their stuff looks really cool and is a lot of fun. Lords of Hellas is my number 7.
So I had this
It's
one
pretty.
starred. Was it on Kickstarter? This one? Yeah? Yeah. I had it starred, actually. It looked pretty good. Eric, have you played this one?
I have. We talked about it on the show. I enjoyed it. And those multi-part minis are really cool. These 5-stage monuments that you build. Although, Tom, quick aside, somebody was upset about the Dice Tower library having a piece that seemed to be glued together even though they were supposed to come apart. Did somebody mess up putting those things together in the Dice Tower library?
No, I don't think so.
All right, never mind.
We wouldn't have glued them together. Although when I first opened the box, I was like, "Oh, are you kidding me? These miniatures are in 5 pieces. They couldn't make this one piece." Well, I didn't know they were.
Right.
It was like that.
You construct them during the game. Anyway.
My number 7 is Keyflow. So Keyflow I actually got not too long ago, but I've been playing it like crazy. So if you're familiar with Keyflower, it's very similar. However, Keyflow is card-driven. So your little keeples are on cards in order to activate your buildings. But it does it goes over 4 game rounds, which are seasons. So, your spring, summer, fall, winter. And you're trying to create your own village. And like I said before, you're using the keeples on the cards to activate your buildings or potentially other people's buildings. And basically you want to complete some of the cards that are on your buildings or put cards in that give you points. And you also can collect animals. That's really fun. Most points at the end win. So Keyflow for me was really good. And I've been teaching it and people have really been enjoying it. I taught it a few times actually at the Dice Tower Retreat.
Well, good. You can teach me on the cruise because I just ordered my copy and I want to play.
Perfect.
Cool.
Keyflow is very similar to Keyforge, I think, right?
No.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't start that rumor.
I went to Richard Brace at Essen. I was like, "So what do you think about Keyforge?" And he's like, "Well, I thought about making a big deal about it, but I figured people would realize it wasn't designed by me." It's like, yeah, that's probably true.
The aesthetic's a little different.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 6.
Number 6, Mandy mentioned earlier as her big surprise, that's Gizmos. I love the marbles. I love the engine building as you draft these devices and try and create chains where they trigger each other. And it's a neat puzzle. And plus, those marbles are cool. It's my number 6, Gizmos.
Well, my number 6 was Mandy's number 8, and that is Chronicles of Crime, Tom's favorite cooperative game. One thing I will just point out about it is I deal with apps a lot and board game apps, and I've heard a lot of gamers criticize the integration of technology into board games. I understand that point of view, but it's one I don't agree with. And I think Chronicles of Crime is an excellent example of how technology can be integrated pretty much it's just so smooth to use this app and investigate and go from location to location and ask questions. And the technology component was integrated so incredibly well. I love Chronicles of Crime, from the kind of virtual reality scenes that you get to look at to the questioning mechanisms. I think it's a fabulous, fabulous game. That is my number 6.
My number 6, I'm really shocked, is not on Mandy's list. And that's Underwater Cities.
I haven't played it yet. It's on my table.
Oh, this game is this is one of the biggest heavy Euro games that came out this year. It is great. It's by Vladimir Suchy, who's one of my favorite designers, and it's kind of like Terraforming Mars a little bit, where you play a card and do an action and slowly build up this tableau. It's very long, but very fun. Underwater Cities, my number 6.
So I know Ashley, my friend Ashley, listens to the podcast, so this is a little reminder to brush up on the rulebook to teach that on Saturday. Okay, so my number 6 is Root. So I'm not going to go into too much detail because I'm going to leave that one for Eric to talk about.
Number 5.
Not yet, though, because my number 5 is Myolica, the tile-laying game, tile-drafting game from the Taiwan board game design group. This one was a big hit for me at Essen. I love the chaining. Another game that allows you to chain things. Triggering one factory and then sending those tiles to another factory, which then could trigger that one. And when you can get all of them to trigger at once, it just feels very, very satisfying. Plus, drafting tiles that you know your opponent wants is fun. Myolica, my number 5.
Your enjoyment of this game makes me so happy, Eric. I love your. I've never heard of you buying 3 copies of a game before, just to make sure.
It made the shipping make sense. I mean, it was like flat rate shipping for no matter how many copies you bought, or up to 5 copies. I was like, well, I might as well buy a few. The last time I did that was for Mysterium, when I think I bought 2 copies of the Polish edition of Mysterium. Just so that I could, it made sense for shipping, and I could then sell one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, my number 5 is, and first of all, Tom, let's be clear. I could do a top 10 roll and write list. This is not my top 10 roll and write list, though. But my number 5 for 2018 is a roll and write game, and that is Let's Make a Bus Route. Let's Make a Bus Route is published by Sashi and Sashi out of Asia, which is a fabulous, fabulous publishing house. I love so many of their games in general, but Let's Make a and now I think I'm getting the publisher wrong, actually, but I still love Sashi and Sashi games.
No,
Let's
that's
Make
right.
A Bus Route
that's Sashi and Sashi.
Okay, it is a roll and write game that has a communal drawing space. So you have this city board with different little locations and all these roads and intersections, and you have different colored pens, and you're taking turns drawing your routes on the board. And if you go into a road that another player has already been on, you can travel that road, but you take a bad traffic hit for that. This is card driven, and each card, there's like a red card may be a move forward 2, or a blue card may be move forward 1 and turn right. And that kind of thing. It's card driven, so you get these things. It's completely predictable because each shape will come up twice during the game. And every color is something different to another player, so it adds a nice bit of optimization for individual optimization for each player. It plays extremely quickly. It is a 30-minute game, and that's partly why it's on my list where it is, because I've gotten to play it so often. It comes out as a phenomenal little filler. And even though it's straightforward and easy to play, it has a thinky element, as all their games do. You can plan ahead. You know how many moves you're going to have, especially after you hit that mid-game point. You're thinking to what's coming ahead and what you still have available and how you can optimize as you go around this board. It is an excellent roll and write. It has that very uncommon communal drawing surface. I am desperately hoping that this somehow gets a wider distribution into especially the Western market, because it is excellent. And that is Let's Make a Bus Route, my number 5.
It is a fun one. The one of my memories of this, though, is that I set up my copy at Dice Tower Con to try and draw some people in, like, hey, let's play this cool new roll and write. And meanwhile, Suzanne, you were setting up your copy like 3 tables over, and you sort of sheepishly came over and said, hey, you don't have any people playing your copy. You want to come over and play on mine? And so I packed up mine sheepishly and then walked over and played on yours.
And it was a delight to have you join us.
It was delightful.
You know, Suzanne, I actually decided I was going to do my top 10 roll and writes of all time. A few months ago, I was like, oh, yeah, I should do that. And then I couldn't get 10, so I went and did something else.
Wow.
That's right.
We got to talk after this
Them's
podcast.
fighting words.
My number 5, well, if Mandy's not going to talk about it, neither am I. So it'll come up later. Since she's making all the rules for this show.
Yeah, that's right. My number 5 is Gizmos, and I think we've heard about it a few times already. So yeah, I don't think I need to go into any more details. I enjoy it, and there you go.
Number 4.
Back to me. Number 4 was mentioned as my surprise for the year. That's Cryptid. Terrific game. Works with lots of different groups. Number 4, Cryptid.
It's such a good game.
It
I
is.
agree. Well, if nobody gets to talk about this game, then I guess I don't get to talk about it either. My number 4 is going to come up later, but I will say it was in my category for top art of the year as well. I didn't mention it when we were looking at best art, but this one would hit that list as well for me.
It's a mystery. Who's going to talk about this game?
I don't know.
Ooh.
Oh, the mystery's over. Oh, sorry. My number 4 is Vindication. So I played this at Retreat 1 and liked it so much that it played, I think, 2 or 3 more times at Retreat 1 and then several times at Retreat 2.
Wow.
This game is awesome. I think Mandy would like it because it's a Euro game. It just doesn't look like one.
I'm listening.
It looks like this big, epic Ameritrash style game, but it's not. The theming is you were thrown off a boat because you're a despicable wretch. You're a scumbag. It says it on your card. And you wash up on shore, someone rescues you, and now you have to vindicate yourself, become a respectable human being. And you do so by going around and collecting cubes of various colors and going on quests and things, but it's all very, you have to, it's a sandbox game. You have to decide what to go and where to do things to try to be as economical and get these different resources. I really like it. Every game is fairly quick. We're talking like 75 minutes. It feels very in-depth and amazing components. Awesome all-around Vindication. This should probably be higher, actually. That's how much I like it.
Wow.
I am right.
Yeah, this was a Kickstarter, right? I think I remember covering it.
Yes, it was a Kickstarter.
Oh.
Okay,
well,
yeah. It
I'm
looks
putting
good.
it on the list. I'm hoping it's on the cruise. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. My number 4 is Newton. So, Newton, you get to play the role of a scientist. The game is played over 6 rounds, and in the round, you get cards in your hand, and you're basically allowed to perform actions with these cards. They allow you to perform actions. My favorite part is the library that you have as one of the boards where you're trying to kind of fill that up to get bonuses. And then you also have a board where you can travel and get bonuses that way. And then there's another board where you can travel on that and get even more bonuses and potentially hit the end to fulfill some objectives. I like this game a lot because it was one of those games where you were like, oh, I have so many things to do, but I don't have enough time to do it. I don't have the right cards. I don't have enough cards to do it. And just trying to figure that out within the 6 rounds was frustrating but fun. And I really like that because it makes me want to come back and do it all over again. So my number 4 is Newton.
Number 3.
I'm feeling a little predictable at this point because my number 3 is Pandemic Fall of Rome, which was my top co-op of the year. I already explained why. I just find it stellar. It's really good. It's my favorite of the historical scenarios. I like it even better than Rising Tide. I like it better than Iberia. It's a really cool distillation and variant on Pandemic. Number 3, Pandemic Fall of Rome.
Well, we aligned here just a little bit because my favorite cooperative game is also my number 3 game, and that is Escape Tales: The Awakening from Board and Dice Games. Talked about it at length already. I just know I'm very excited to get the next one, but I'm also excited to replay the one I have because it does have a branching narrative, so it is technically replayable. And I want to know, we hit kind of a dark ending, so I really want to play it again to see if I can find a happier ending on Escape Tales Awakening. And I'm looking forward to trying.
Just as a small heads up, there's many endings. Very few of them are positive.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Roll.
My number 3 is Thunderstone Quest, the third version of Thunderstone, but they're all very different. Thunderstone was a deck-building game. Thunderstone Advance made it a better deck-building game. Thunderstone Quest takes it away from being a deck-building. It's still a deck-building game, but makes it more of a dungeon crawl-style game. It also, they decided to make the biggest, thickest, heaviest box they could imagine. It's like a brick, that thing. But it's so much fun. I really enjoy it. And it has a so much different feel than other deck-building games. That's Thunderstone Quest, the last good game you'll hear about in our number 3s.
Oh, wow. Shots fired.
What? Oh, is there still one left? Sorry, missed that.
Well, my number 3, that should be no surprise to anyone, is a Feld game, Forum Trajanum. So in Forum Trajanum, I'm going to give you a really short explanation because it's a lot. Basically, you're governing what they call a colonia, and you're in the Roman Empire. So I don't think that's shocking to anyone. And you're trying to develop this. And there's a variety of boards in the game where there's one board where you're trying to kind of build a path with your envoys to score longest path to get points. You have your own board, and by uncovering envoys, which can give you abilities or resources, it will help you score cranes that you have by building like colors of the cranes that are open on your board. There are other tracks on the board that you can progress in order to gain points. It's a Feld, so moving up all the different tracks will get you all the different points. And you have these cards that are flipped, which will allow you to decide where you can choose your action tiles from in the game. I really enjoyed Forum Trajanum. I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about it. For me, I was really happy to see this come out. There is another game that he has done as well that was at Essen. I just haven't played it enough, and that's why it's not on my top 10. But for me, Forum Trajanum was wonderful, and I really enjoyed it.
I do like how you have to clear room on your personal board to make room for the tiles that you're sort of purchasing from the main board. And that's the actions that you get to do.
Right.
So you're sort of clearing the space and making the room and positioning them where you want, but that's also what you have to choose from in order to actually do the things in the game.
Yeah, like the choice of the tiles. Oh my goodness, it's so stressful, but I love it.
This is one I'm disagreeing with them. I think this is such a forgettable game that it will not be mentioned within a year by anybody, even Mandy. That she will not play it within a year. I'm calling it now. Next year, let's talk about it.
What kind of bet are we putting on
no,
this?
nothing on Major, because then she'll go out of her way to play it if there's any kind of money on the line.
She'll just keep talking about it.
But I'm just saying, this is one of the most forgettable Felds I've played in ages.
I disagree.
Well, obviously. I'm just saying that you will... We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
Number 2.
My number 2 was also from the very beginning of the year. It just barely missed 2017, and that's Stuffed Fables, the first adventure book game from Plaid Hat Games. I have made no secret about adoring this game, playing it with my kids. Just the aesthetic is stellar, and the system is great, and had a blast playing Stuffed Fables. My number 2.
I'm so glad this made your list. My family, with my 10-year-old and 6.5-year-old, we have just loved Stuffed Fables, so it's great to see it on a top 10 here. My number 2 is Coimbra. Coimbra from Eggert Spiele. It's a gorgeous game, and it is gorgeous to play. You've got dice and action selection and card drafting and pathing. There's a lot of moving pieces in it, but it all seems to flow so well together. It's just a very rewarding game experience to me. You get through a game and you feel kind of good about playing it. I don't know how to explain it, but I think it's a very clever package that combines a number of different mechanisms, but it does it in an elegant manner. And that is why it's my number 2, Coimbra.
My number 2 is... No, I'm seeing whose list it was on. It was on Suzanne's list already, yes.
And Mandy's.
Oh, and Mandy's. Yes. Sorry. Hers was negated by having forum trade. Okay, anyway. No, number 2.
Come on.
Chronicles of Crime. Amazing. Everyone said good things about it. I love it. I had so much fun, and I want more. I want more, and I want it now.
Tom, have you played? I haven't played through the expansions yet, like the 80s expansion.
No, I don't have those.
Or the Noir expansion. Have you played those?
The Noir one especially, but Chronicles of Crime. Yeah, I'm really pumped about trying those out.
I need to play this game.
Yes, Eric, you would love it. You would love it. So my number 2 is also Coimbra, which Suzanne talked about earlier. I really enjoyed this game. I thought it was going to be a little bit heavier. I mean, it's still really good, but it's definitely in the lighter medium range of game. I love the colors. I love the gameplay itself. It's very smooth, as Suzanne spoke of earlier. And I have a very good memory of this game because I first played it with Tom and Eric. And there was, I think, another gentleman there as well. And the reason why it stands out to me is because, first of all, Tom won, and I really wasn't expecting that. But then I was also playing the most random game ever. And poor Eric was legitimately, strategizing, and I think we tied. So I'm sorry, but it was a good memory, and I enjoyed it. So Coimbra, my number 2.
A good memory indeed. This is probably in my second 10. I really did enjoy this one.
It's an excellent game.
And finally, number 1.
Number 1, everybody has sort of alluded to throughout, and it's our only 4-way crossover for our list this year, and that is Root. The asymmetrical skirmish game that's sort of based on the coin system counterinsurgency style game, but it is layered with this adorable forest faction, lovely art, adorable figurines, cute little meeples, but some very deep gameplay as you explore these different factions that all operate differently. There's even the one little single figure faction, the vagabond, that sort of messes with everybody else, and I love exploring how each of these operate. I have the expansion, still haven't even delved into it because I want to explore the starting 4 more first. It works, and I really enjoy how deep it is. Root is my number 1 game of the year.
All right, quick question. What's everyone's favorite faction?
Vagabond.
Eerie.
Probably. Which are the oh my gosh. Which ones are the blue ones? Those are the
That's
the Eerie.
No,
Eerie,
I don't like the
birds.
Eerie, the green ones.
Oh.
Oh, the mice.
And the cats are my favorite. We could actually
I do like the
play
cats too.
We could play a game together, guys.
We could.
But
I actually find this utterly fascinating that each of us, that is,
Yeah, I like the quests for the Vagabond.
there has to be some meaning in this one, folks. I just have to imagine.
Let's not look for it because the cats are kind of evil.
But wait, if we throw the expansion in, I'm going to go for the economic one, right?
Sure.
Well, my number 1 kind of falls along with what Eric's been doing a little bit, is that it just snuck into 2018, I believe, because it was out, I know I first played it in 2017, but it's listed at 2018, and this game is Castell from Renegade Games.
This is most definitely a 2018 release.
Okay, excellent. Whew. Shoo. I love Castell so much. I love everything about Castell. I love the way that you have to move around the board and plan. I love the randomness of these Castellers that get on the different locations and the choice you have to make about putting on the public performances or participating in the contest. I love the puzzle of trying to figure out how you can maximize your little tower of people and what abilities you want to level up so that you can get the formations that you need. It has a little bit of randomness, but not too much. It has a fun visual effect as you're building these little pyramids of people, and it's something fun to fiddle with while you're waiting while other people take their turn. I've loved this game since I first played a prototype. I continue to love it. Castell is definitely in my top 50 games of all time, so it has to be my number 1 of 2018. Castell from Renegade.
Tom cut me off before I got to it, but that was on my wish I had played list as well.
Oh,
that's because we didn't put that on the thing, and you try to sneak it in anyway. But
I know
this is surprising me, Suzanne. I was just talking about this game and saying how no one was really talking about it, and I thought it was neat because I like the theming of it. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say you like that one. That's good. You have a unique pick, unlike mine, which is more of a mainstream thing. Rising Sun. It came out at the very beginning of the year. Huge, big, giant game from CMON. And yes, I like it better than Blood Rage. I love the combat system. Yes, I like the miniatures and all that jazz, although some of them are pretty gross. But I love the back and forth that it does. It's in my play group, certainly one of the most played games over the course of the year. This is one people forget sometimes is in 2018 because it came out so early in the year. But it is an excellent game, and it looks fantastic on the table. Speaking of which, Mandy.
Go.
Man, I shouldn't have. The only reason I'm being mean to Mandy is because she comes right after me. Sorry. This would be anybody.
But actually, your comment there was super appropriate because my number one is Blackout Hong Kong, and well, let's be honest, it doesn't look the most amazing on the table.
And I thought it would when they first announced it. I was like, "Ooh, a game that's black. That sounds cool."
Yes, that's what I thought. And yeah, well, kind of looks like a prototype.
Ouch.
I'm sorry, but the game's really good, and I taught this quite a bit at the retreat. Actually, I can't stop playing it for me, so I just got it not too long ago, but played it quite a few times. But basically, yeah, the whole theme is that, Hong Kong is struck by a blackout. I really like the fact that we have same cards to work from. And then that market, you get to kind of choose cards from this market to build your hand in future, and then they go in as objectives and then come into your hand. And in the game, you're kind of playing them in these slots that you have under your board, and they build up, and it's hard because you want to pull the cards up back into your hand because you have this option depending on the cards you have, but then you're trying to keep them there to meet objectives. So it's like that push and pull. And then you have the board where you can scout in order to kind of pick up tiles to give you bonuses and a bit of a set collection there at the end of the game for points. So people who have played Mombasa, I have not yet played Mombasa. It's on my shelf. I still have to play it. Said that they found some similarities and they really enjoyed the play of that, so they feel that people would enjoy Blackout Hong Kong. Definitely, I like the fact you can run the deck, so you can get those cards out in the market, keep buying them, getting them to flush to make the game progress a lot faster. I really liked it. I was a little unsure going in just from the way that it looked, but I love the fact that it's clearly outlined on your board, all the steps you have to follow, straightforward, but your strategy is deep. And Suzanne has given a great name to the purple pillar that you use to kind of...
Fister's Purple Power Pillar.
That's it. I love it. So Blackout Hong Kong is my number one.
I taught this game the past couple weeks, and whew, that is a game to teach.
It is.
There's a lot going on in that it's just, it makes sense putting it all together, but it's a game and a half to teach.
I didn't realize it until I was teaching it, I think, for the third time, and I'm like, wow, this is a lot.
Hey, that's it. That is the entire top 10 of 2018.
Boy.
What a good year it's been. I'm very excited about it. And you know what? Like I said earlier, I'm excited that we can talk about these games. We'll still be, in our next episode, which will be January 1st, we're not going to suddenly start talking about 2019 games. We're still playing 2018. And Eric had that really long list that he'll probably read off eventually. Future Eric can do that. Of games to be played, and we all have those. There's just so many.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But we can't play them all. It will never happen.
It's true.
We will all die having certain games in 2018 that have never been played. And that's okay. I don't think I'll be laying there when I'm 56, because I think that's the date, and I'll be like, I wish I had played Welcome to.
Of all the games.
Well, I just picked one that I haven't played that's on this list that I'm like, I should probably play Welcome to at some point. and don't let people throw that at you either. People are like, you haven't done this yet? No, I haven't. Because you can't play all the games. So don't let people get that on you. The only one you need to play is Root, because it was on all four of our lists, so that's required.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, folks, thanks for listening. Merry Christmas to everybody. If you're listening to this on Christmas, you should probably go spend time with people and stuff. But
what are you doing listening to us?
Well, no, Eric, maybe they're like at a hospital. That's really important.
Oh,
okay.
Like they're doing an important job. Staying awake, listening to the Dice Tower. We appreciate you. Sacrificing your...
Or maybe they're trying to avoid their family and listening to us.
Taking it down the negative route, but... Hey, it's been a great year. We appreciate everyone listening to the Dice Tower this year. Thanks so very much. And thanks for Mandy and Suzanne for joining us, especially Mandy, because last year she missed this episode.
I was so sad listening. I'm like, oh, that could have been on my list. So very happy to have joined.
Well, until next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
I'm Mandy Hutchinson.
And I'm Eric Summerer.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This episode, number 586, was recorded on December 20th, 2018. Next week, Tom and I look back at the games from 5 years ago to see how our top 10 games from 2014 have changed. Support for this podcast comes from listeners like you. Thank you for spreading the word. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is dedicated to providing support to members of the board gaming community in their hour of need. Find out more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Mandy, Suzanne, and Eric, with production assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Searing. Our theme was composed by Timothy Pinkham. The Mac and Cheese companion vehicle to the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile provided by Kraftwagen. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. We love feedback. Visit the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com. Email us at dicetower@gmail.com or follow us on Facebook. And of course, you can find more from the Dice Tower Network, including the Out of Game podcast, Board Game Corner, Board Game Design Lab, the D6 Generation, the Family Gamers, the Dukes of Dice, the Portal Gaming Podcast, Every Night is Game Night, and Board Game Breakfast at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, Merry Christmas and have fun gaming.
I'm going to go play some games. Christmas Day gaming. See y'all later.
Day after Christmas gaming.
That's the thing. There's so many good games, and there's so many games I didn't get to play that I want to. I still want more. I want more. 2019 is going to be awesome.
Oh, wait, we still have Boxing Day. Whole other day to play games.
Whatever.
Oh, Canadian.
Game Boxing Day.